We've all been lied to.
If you don't want to die young, eat fiber.
Before I absolutely dismantle every argument there ever was for fiber,
And you've got these carnivore idiots out here.
by the end of this video, I'm going to show you who the real idiot is.
You're also stupid.
High fiber diets have been shown to decrease the absorption of protein, to decrease the absorption of fat.
This is one of the biggest myths.
Harming people with that advice.
And so that begs the question, well, why are we eating it?
What they're telling you by saying human nutrition science, so 3 words in one sentence, they're telling you they don't understand the science.
I mean, I worked with thousands of GI patients.
For decades, you've been told fiber is essential for your health, that it cleans you out, prevents diseases, and keeps your gut happy. But what if that is not really the truth? What if the very thing you've been told is saving you is actually harming you? In this video, I'm going to thoroughly dismantle every argument for fiber that's ever been made, piece by piece, and by the end, you'll understand not only why this advice was wrong, but how it became one of the most dangerous myths in modern nutrition. We'll uncover why Dr. Layne Norton treats weak studies like sacred truth, how billion-dollar corporations profit, and why the so-called science behind their fiber crumbles under real scrutiny. So buckle up. Let's talk about how this one man, Dr. Layne Norton, and his blind faith in bad data helped fuel one of the biggest nutrition myths. This is Dr. Layne Norton, and he thinks that pretty much everyone's an idiot.
And you've got these carnivore idiots out here. Idiots.
He's also one of the most intellectually honest voices.
If you can eat a bigger volume of food, you feel more satiated.
Hi, welcome to Daily Pronunciation. Today's word is satiate.
More satiated. You're also stupid. You're also stupid. Idiots.
Dr. Norton also wants everyone to know this groundbreaking work he's come up with. And that is, you need to eat more fiber or you're going to die.
If you don't want to die young, eat fiber.
Breaking news. Dr. Layne Norton rediscovers the 1980s food pyramid.
Dr. Norton is a really smart guy.
Over 70% of adults are considered overweight. So this is a massive, massive problem. I love popcorn, so
eat fiber. Now, there was a recent Umbrella review published on the effect of fiber.
I'm an idiot moron homesteader. Full disclosure, I am not a doctor. I barely graduated high school. Layne Norton is also a bully, and Dr. Nick Norowitz has talked about this on his channel before.
Layne is a patterned bully who, it's clear to me, is being a hypocrite on several levels.
And I usually try to do more positive videos. If this one comes off a bit negative, it's because Layne Norton thinks everyone's an idiot, but also because he's a bully, and I hate bullies. The other reason I'm addressing Dr. Layne Norton is because he called out Dr. Anthony Chaffee, and Dr. Chaffee has been a huge part of my healing journey on carnivore, a huge inspiration. And Dr. Chaffee has literally performed brain surgery on people. Meanwhile, Layne Norton isn't even an MD. Layne Norton accused Dr. Chaffee of not being a real doctor, and to his credit, Layne later went on and apologized.
Apologized to him because that was a false claim.
But Dr. Chaffee is literally saving people's lives with his work and his advice. How many people's lives are you saving, Layne Norton, by telling them to eat more fiber? Here are just a few examples I found going through Dr. Chaffee's YouTube videos. These are precise comments on his videos. This is life-changing.
And you've got these carnivore idiots out here.
At the end of this video, I'm going to show you who the real idiot is.
You're also stupid.
Before I absolutely dismantle every argument there ever was for fiber, let's talk about these carnivore idiots, these anecdotes that we shouldn't be listening to because we should be trusting Layne Norton's data and science.
I've been a doctor for nearly 30 years now.
I'm an American medical doctor. I'm currently practicing in Australia. I'm a neurosurgical resident.
Carnivore Idiots.
My specialty was orthopedic surgery, so I was replacing hips, knees, doing trauma surgery.
I have now been a cardiac surgeon, a heart surgeon for over 20 years.
Idiots.
I'm a psychiatrist. I've been practicing psychiatry for 25 years.
I'm a fertility doctor, a nutritionist, immunologist, I'm a surgeon.
Idiots.
A big turning point for me on my journey was actually 6 words. And the words changed my life forever. Gave my kids their father back. I'm no longer on any of this medication. I'm down 100 pounds since my heaviest. Changed my life forever. And those 6 words were, Dr. Barry, you saved my life.
But you can do it, but you're also stupid to do it.
My name is Dr. Sam High. I'm an internal medicine doctor, and I've been practicing for 9 years.
Diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer.
I'm an orthopedic surgeon.
Idiots.
When I first got diagnosed, stage 4 colon cancer, which they told me 6 months max.
But you can do it. You're also stupid to do it.
I started my carnivore journey, and here I should probably interject. I'm actually a professor at Stanford.
Idiots.
In the Department of Bioengineering. I'm in the School of Medicine and the School of Engineering. I've been a professor for 27 years.
How long ago was your MS diagnosis?
My body was covered in plaque psoriasis.
If you eat more fiber.
I was diagnosed with Parkinson's.
Carnivore loonies.
My daughter, they told us she wouldn't live past a couple years old.
Idiots.
She had 16 surgeries. 14 of those were emergency surgeries.
I said, what's more amazing is I healed nearly 100% of my symptoms of MS from only eating meat.
I healed my daughter from intestinal failure at 2.5 years old using the carnivore diet.
Idiot.
Carnivore saved my life and also my husband's life.
Also stupid to do it.
I'm 54 and I love carnivore. I feel like it literally saved my life.
Idiot.
Let's quickly go over how these studies usually go. First, well, we have some altruistic CEO who says we should fund an incredibly expensive, massive, large-scale study out of the kindness of our hearts. Then they develop the study with food frequency questionnaires, which is complete and utter junk science. People guess what they ate weeks, months, or even years ago. How often did you eat salad last week, last month? Weekly? Wait a minute, was that last month? Wait, was that last year? They literally ask people what they ate a year ago. Step 2, researchers. Turn all of those amazing guesses into data. Trust the data, trust the science.
Fiber, fiber, fiber. Trust the fiber. Trust the science.
Step 3, observational studies find associations and not causes.
Trust the fiber. Trust the science.
Step 4, mix dozens of biased studies together and call it a meta-analysis. Cherry pick the studies that support the fiber confirmation bias you already had going into this. Step 5, media turns weak associations into headlines. Breaking news, fiber prevents cancer. Brought to you by Cheerios. Step 6, influencers preach the gospel of garbage data.
I'm so SMRT.
Step 7, $50 billion per year dietary fiber market rakes in billions more. So here's how nutrition science really works. It starts with corporate funding, runs through bad surveys and biased studies, gets polished by the media, and after all of that, a single drop of science trickles out. But we're going to get into the science and the data in just a second. I just want to talk about these anecdotes that we should dismiss. It is absolutely mind-blowing. And I know you're going to say it's confirmation bias, you're just looking for it. No, it is more than that. There is something going on in the carnivore space with people healing. Story after story. There's millions of people doing carnivore right now and healing like nothing before. You do not see that with anything else. And I've heard Layne say this before. For all these anecdotes, I can find just as many. No, you can't. Then do it. Layne, do it. You show me. You show me any other medication, lifestyle change, intervention where people are finding healing like they are on carnivore. You can't do it. There are so many incredible stories of healing on carnivore. People have been sending us them, and we've been gathering thousands of them. In fact, we had over 20,000 The book we were putting together was going to be over a foot thick. We have been editing it down to a more reasonable amount. You can go to healinghumanity.movie right now, and you can sign up for our free newsletter, and you'll be the first to know when the book is ready. It's coming up very soon. It's going to have thousands of stories of healing across multiple categories. You don't see that from people just eating fiber.
You saved my life.
Changed my life.
You know, I know you don't feel like I do, but I feel like I owe you a lot of gratitude. I really do. Had I not found that video, I really don't think I'd be here today. I mean, it saved my life.
I love you, dude. I'm getting emotional because you really helped save me, man.
You have changed my life. You are changing lives. Like, I owe you my walking.
And you've got these carnivore idiots.
What a bunch of idiots finding incredible healing. You know what is idiotic? Using cheap store-bought soap that has all sorts of chemicals and ingredients and detergents in it. You can't pronounce half of them. You put it on your body, it goes in your body. I don't do that. I've been using Beast Mode soap for, I think it's been about a year now. Grass-fed beef tallow soap. This stuff is more expensive, but it is incredible and it is good for you. And it lasts a really long time, and I absolutely love it. I highly recommend it. Special offer, link in the description below. Now back to today's video. All right, let's talk about what Layne is so obsessed with, fiber.
Guys, I've been talking about fiber for a long time now. In fact, I think we should probably rename this the Protein and Fiber Show.
He says that fiber is essential for health, and you're gonna die sooner if you don't eat fiber.
So again, if you want to live longer, eat more fiber.
That's how important it is. You're basically killing yourself if you reject fiber. He acts like it's a completely settled fact. There's no debate about this. Why are we even discussing it? Just eat more fiber. I'm going to present several logical, common sense arguments.
Idiots.
The first one is very simple. It's just the definition. If you look up the definition of fiber, it is non-essential and non-digestible. And if we use some common sense, which I encourage everyone to do, this is the problem with smart people like Layne. They're sometimes so close to things, they don't take a step back and they miss some of the simple common sense details. So fiber, by definition, is non-digestible, non-essential. Why would we need it if it's those two things? The other argument I like to make is there are millions of species on this planet. There's so many species on the planet Earth, they don't even have count. Google it right now. They don't even know. They just say millions. Not one of those species needs to go grind up some wood pulp and consume it in order to take a dump. None of them need to do it. Why would humans be the only species on the planet that have to supplement a non-digestible, non-essential wood pulp in order to live longer? Maybe it's the fact that humans are the only species on this planet that are slowly poisoning themselves. Now, Layne Norton makes fun of Dr. Chafee and saying, oh, plants aren't cancerous, plants aren't trying to kill you, plants aren't toxic. It's the dose that matters.
They taste so bad is because every single plant has a long list of toxic compounds that the plant uses to defend itself.
The dosage makes the poison. You can take something that is very, very toxic, like cyanide, and there is an amount of it you can eat, and it will not negatively affect you.
As he pushes his glasses up in his smug way that he does because he's so smart.
Dosage makes the poison.
As an idiot moron homesteader, I would argue, sure, it's the dose that matters, but it's also the frequency of the dose that matters. And if you're consuming fruits and vegetables multiple times per day out of season because everyone is raving about the fiber and the benefits of fiber and misleading people,
less risk of dying,
making people think they need more fiber in order to live longer, then you're consuming low levels of plant toxins, anti-nutrients, glyphosate, which is patented as an antibiotic. You guys can Google that. Layne probably doesn't believe me on that one. I get a lot of comments on that. Glyphosate is a weed killer and it is patented as an antibiotic. What do you think is happening when you're having a low dose? It's the dose that matters. A low dosage of antibiotics chronically for years and years, decades and decades, and half your life goes by, 30 years is through, and you've been consuming low levels of antibiotics and your gut is absolutely wrecked. And Layne will say, that's not inflammation, that's not bloating, that just means you're full when your stomach's sticking out like you're pregnant.
Well, vegetables cause you to get bloated. No Like, why do you think that they're good for satiety? Because they cause you to feel bloated and full.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So perhaps the fact that humans are slowly and chronically poisoning themselves, maybe there's a little bit of a net benefit of putting sawdust and wood pulp and fiber into our diet to try to lessen the poison. If that was the case, wouldn't we just say, let's look at the root cause and, I don't know, maybe we'll just stop poisoning ourselves in the first place? Which is, by the way, what all these carnivores are doing and is one of the reasons that they are succeeding and thriving.
Your story, Lee, your anecdote with fiber, I think, is one of the more incredible ones. And the experience you had with your ileostomy bag and being able to look at it after you're eating. I thought I pretty much understood fiber and I'm on board, but it wasn't until I heard your story where I'm like, this is just evidence right here. And Layne will say, Lee Kopis, he's just an anecdote. But I think when I interviewed you, you mentioned like you would eat the plants and your bag would not only filled up with like green and particles of the plants, but also gas. And you would eat the meat and it's just like a little bit of liquid, like your body's using all of that.
Yeah, exactly. When we eat fiber, it does promote a lot of gas. And for some people that causes so many problems, bloating and gripes and pains, etc. When I presented with IBD, specifically ulcerative colitis, many, many years ago at my GP, their advice, I saw many doctors there, they all said the same thing. Increase your fiber intake. If you're going to consume little and often whole plant foods, you're going to get more fiber in your diet, and that's going to help, relieve you of your problems, and hopefully we can start to confer benefits. But what I noticed is that I just had more gas, more obstructions, more inflammation, and my disease just exacerbated. It got worse and worse, and it was very low end in the beginning of my journey, but it just exacerbated and spread all the way up my colon. And so after a few years of taking this advice and even medication a couple of years later, because it just got worse, my IBD, they performed a sigmoid endoscopy at the hospital, and they could see that there was hardly any part of my colon that wasn't affected very, very badly, and actually they had to remove the whole organ. So they say that fiber is really healthy for your colon and your gut health, but I lost a big part of mine. And so that begs the question, well, why are we eating it? If it's basically very gas promoting, which causes a lot of discomfort, if it actually blocks nutrients, which it does, it gets in the enzymatic relationship between the food, the nutrients in your food, and the lumen of your intestine, why would we do that? We eat to nourish ourselves, not to decrease the capacity in which we actually can absorb nutrition. So it makes no sense. And the last time I checked, if we can't digest it, we shouldn't be consuming it. Now, ruminant animals, herbivores, hindgut digesters, these can make proper use of fiber because they ferment it thoroughly, generating saturated fats. The animal kingdom runs on fats. Even the herbivores that eat mostly carbohydrates, they run on fats, because we get twice as much ATP when we consume fats over carbohydrates, right? We create more water, we have more NAD+, it just makes perfect sense. And we're in nutritional ketosis, which is very therapeutic, great for the brain, the heart, etc., the gut. But yeah, when I've eaten things like onions, Brussels sprouts, any kind of plant in whole form, we do partially ferment this stuff. And even though I don't have a colon, right, even in my terminal part of the ileum and parts of my small intestine, I actually still ferment this stuff to a point where if I eat a plant-based meal with this bag, I have to wake up in the middle of the night to empty it. And it's basically just full of air, like it's blown up like a balloon, where if I eat meat, it's non-fermentable. So you're not promoting all this gas build-up, and it's just a much more pleasurable experience as an ostomate carrying this bag to eat that way. But honestly, this applies to all human beings. I think it's been normalized that we just should be burping and farting all day long. Right. But that's really not the case. When we eat the way our ancestors ate, we don't have that kind of problem, and it's liberating, quite honestly.
Lee, just to close this out, would it be fair to say then, fiber's indigestible, non-essential, it's pretty much a waste of time, but maybe there's a little tiny benefit if you are currently slowly poisoning yourself eating a standard American diet? Maybe there's a tiny little bit of a benefit, but perhaps the answer is just don't poison yourself anymore. How about that? Then you don't even have to worry about it. Is that fair?
I agree 100%. If you think that, yes, it's not a nutrient, it's not really that beneficial, but if it stops you eating so much processed foods and to mix your macros together because you're eating fiber, and it makes you feel like you're satiated, then that may be some benefit to you. But ideally, we want to remove these things that aren't beneficial to the body in any way, so that we can actually bring more nutrition in. And when we eat things like fatty ruminant meat, you know, our hunger and satiety hormones work very, very reliably, and we can kind of address hunger properly and nourish ourselves and get on with our lives in an appropriate way as a human being.
Wonderful. Well, I really appreciate your time, Lee. Everyone watching my channel, I encourage you to go subscribe. Kent Carnivore, I'll have a link in the description below. I've been watching Lee's channel throughout my entire carnivore journey, and you've got an incredible YouTube channel. You're really inspiring. So thank you so much for coming on.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
The other reason these fiber studies are insane to me is because it's complete junk science. Food frequency questionnaires, asking people what they ate yesterday, and then what did you eat a week ago, and what did you eat 3 years ago? Are you kidding me? No, I'm carnivore. I eat 3 things: beef, butter, and eggs.
Idiot.
Ask me what I ate 3 weeks ago. I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't even honestly tell you. And someone eating the standard American diet with some salad and fiber in there is supposed to remember. And that's science. That's the data that we can't question. Data is greater than feelings. That's the data that Layne Norton is going off of. It's insane. It's junk. It's bias. It's horrible science. All right, so here's a direct quote from Layne's Facebook page. Real science means applying the same standard of evidence whether it supports your beliefs or not. Anything less is just confirmation bias. All right, Layne, in your own words, everyone claims to value data until the data conflicts with their personal beliefs. Well, let's use that same standard of evidence that you suggest. Here are a whole bunch of studies in science showing how flawed epidemiological studies and research are. Reliance on self-reported data, especially food frequency questionnaires, makes the data profoundly unreliable. Now, you can have 17 million in your umbrella study, but if they're all based on epidemiological studies and observational studies and food frequency questionnaires, then we have a major problem. So Layne is raving about this fiber study.
17 million.
The problem is the fiber study is built on a foundation of sand. And Layne is also raving that there's 17 million people in the study.
That's right. I said 17 million.
Well, my argument to that would be, if your fiber study is built on a foundation of sand, it doesn't matter if it's 17 million grains of sand or 17 billion grains of sand, your foundation is still built on sand. Therefore, the house is not safe for humans to habitat. It is not a house. It is not a fiber study when it is built on junk food frequency questionnaires. There is no science. So how can you, Layne, hold this study in such high regard? You worship the fiber studies when they are built on foundations of sand.
First, let's be clear. Sample size does not determine the rigor or value of a study. You can have a trial with 5 million people that's worse than useless. On the other hand, you can have a carefully controlled study with just a handful of participants, or even one that can reveal something profoundly important.
Here's another one. Found food frequency questionnaires underreport energy intake by 30 to 45%, misclassifying diet quality and completely distorting associations with disease. We should probably take this into account. Here's another one. Compared food frequency questionnaires with objective biomarkers. Average correlation below 0.3, meaning more than 70% noise. That sounds like some sound data in science. 70% noise, Layne? Come on. All right, here's one more. The majority of self-reported dietary data are so unreliable, they should be expunged from the scientific record. That is more science and more data, and we should use the same standard as you mentioned there, Layne, in your Facebook post.
An example of asymmetrical application of logic, because he is saying this thing sucks, except when I like it right here, and now you should pay attention. Yeah, that doesn't work that way, guys.
And now, if you go and ask someone that actually does eat a lot of fiber and they have a lot of salad, how much do they eat? They're going to overinflate it in every situation, even if it's a good, honest person. That's just human nature. That's what we do.
And I'm not even talking about people who overtly lie about what they're eating. I'm talking about people with the right attitude, with the right, I'm going to be honest about what I'm eating. They have no idea. So they get it wrong. Food frequency questionnaires are invalid.
Here's the other reason that these fiber studies are so stupid, because what does someone that eats a lot of salad also do? They get a lot of sunshine, vitamin D. They probably jog, run, exercise. They go outside. They're probably metabolically healthy. They're probably less likely to eat processed junk food and food dyes and seed oils. All of those things. How can you pinpoint it and say the fiber is doing it? You could look at any one of those studies that Layne Norton is raving about, and you could say the exact same thing for vitamin D or improved metabolic health. The individuals in this study who improved their metabolic health lived longer. You could say the exact same thing. How can you cherry pick and say that's because of the fiber? There's no way for you to possibly know that. Are you following this individual around and measuring all of the fiber they're putting in their body? There's correlation and causation. We've had these arguments for so long. How can you pinpoint and say that's the fiber and it's not the vitamin D? It's not the exercise. It's not the proper metabolic health, which is the root cause of it. You attribute all of that to non-essential, non-digestible fiber that no other species on this planet needs, but it's just humans, and that's going to make them live longer. These studies are junk. They are all biased. Now let's talk about this huge study that Layne Norton is talking about. As I alluded to earlier, these are so watered down. Let's take the average of 17 million people in a population, different ages, different genders, different hormones, different metabolic health, different pre-existing conditions, all of these things. Let's group all of those together, average them out, and then say, this is what you should do based on 17 million other people that self-reported it. Trust the science. And where do these studies come from, Layne? Because you're bragging in the video. This was huge. This was meta-analysis grouped together into an umbrella.
That's right. I said 17 million.
Huge, huge, huge. Well, I know just a regular study can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. How much did this umbrella study cost? Oh, and let me think about it, because we're not supposed to question the science. We're supposed to follow the science. But you know what happens, Layne, every time we follow the science? We're following the money. Who is doing this fiber study out of the kindness of their heart for the betterment of humanity? Who's doing it? There's some scientist off in a lab somewhere working for free, studying fiber for our benefit. I looked into the study that Layne mentioned, and here's the conflict of interest statement from the very study Layne is quoting. The lead author, Marco Salmi, lists consulting work for 5 pharmaceutical companies and co-founded 2 private science firms. So when you hear trust the science, just remember, this is the science you're trusting. And if you take nothing else away from this video, take this away. When there is bias, there is no science. This is sponsorship bias. There's also confirmation bias and about 20 other types of bias going into this study.
Yeah, I think we all hear that. I remember making a video about this from the Journal of Gastroenterology. And in that study, they found that the folk who didn't consume fiber didn't have bloating, didn't have cramping in their abdomen, didn't have problems with constipation, ironically. So the zero fiber diet, and it wasn't just a few of those folk, everybody in the study didn't complain of abdominal pain, bloating, constipation, and things like that. And the people who did complain about that were the high fiber folk. Now, anybody who's had fiber knows it can cause bloating. Everybody knows that. Are there people out there who seem to benefit from fiber? Yeah, when they went from the standard American diet to fiber, sure they did. But the research suggests that even if you find a study that shows fiber may be helpful, right? We also have studies that show it's absolutely not necessary. So I think what people have to do is individualize what they decide to do. And for me, when I eat fiber, my belly feels horrible. This is something I'll say really quickly. I had a patient come in who had diverticulitis, which comes from diverticula, little pouches in the colon, and that's mainly from inflammation. They told this patient, I couldn't believe it, I need you to go on a low carb, zero fiber diet to heal. And then after you do that, we're going to put you back on a high fiber diet. And I thought she was making this up. And then she showed me the paperwork. So you're going to tell me which diet heals me, and you're going to ask me to do that. And then you're going to put me on a diet that may have contributed to these symptoms. But that's the world we live in because we've been blinded by those guidelines that are not up to date and accurate. We feared meat and other things like saturated fat so much that we are so blind that we can't even see that we're harming people with that advice. So is fiber necessary? 100% not. It's not a nutrient that your body needs. The bear eating the salmon doesn't need it. The tiger, they don't eat Frosted Flakes. They eat meat.
Yeah, so fiber is something we're told as a quote unquote essential nutrient. And to me, essentiality requires or means if I don't get it, I'll die. Now, I haven't had any significant fiber in 8 years. I'm still here. I'm doing fine. My brain works. Same without carbohydrates. I'm performing well as an athlete. Fiber is not an essential ingredient. In fact, it is completely undigestible by humans or indigestible by humans. To think that you have to put something indigestible into your digestive tract to get a benefit is a little bit, doesn't make sense. Now, there's a lot of associative data. And again, we have to remember nutrition science is not a particularly strong science. It's a very weak science in general because we just can't have hard outcomes. We can't lock humans in labs for 50 years and slice them open when we're done and control all the variables. So it's all really this sort of speculative data, and there's associations there that are so incredibly confounded. Fiber is often a marker of better overall diet quality. It's generally the fiber improves outcomes is usually fruits and vegetables, whole foods versus junk food diet. And yeah, the comparison is always going to be better, right? We don't, some of the things that they say that fiber improves outcomes on, maybe you have less glucose excursion, maybe you have better, A1Cs and things like that. Interestingly, and this is something that I said kind of tongue in cheek, is that, I bet I could feed people sand and get the same result. And believe it or not, there have been studies on quote unquote sand silicates, basically engineered silicates that actually lower the A1C, that actually lower the average glucose, that actually improve some of the cardiovascular metrics. So you could just make the same argument, well, you could just be eating sand, right? But again, this is something we're not designed to eat. If we look at the purpose of our nutrition, why do we eat as a human being? We eat strictly so we can get essential amino acids, essential fats, vitamins, minerals, energy, and then probably water would be an argument. You don't need fiber to get any of that. In fact, fiber inhibits all that. High fiber diets have been shown to decrease the absorption of protein, to decrease the absorption of fat, to decrease the absorption of even carbohydrates, as well as many vitamins and minerals.
Layne, thank you for joining me. As a former GI nurse, what are your thoughts on fiber?
So I know firsthand from my own experience how it impacted me. And I also know from all of I worked with thousands of GI patients, how much better they felt when they were told to hold the fiber. I worked in the clinic, and so I worked with the patients that were ill. They weren't just going in for colonoscopies, routine screenings or diagnostic colonoscopies. I was working with the actual patients who had a variety of gastrointestinal illnesses. Fiber was always a huge topic with our nursing team because very often it was considered to be a tool to use to help. Part of the problem is that so very often I would have patients calling me and saying that it just made them feel worse. It didn't solve their problem, and often they would be either more constipated or they would have looser stools or they would be more bloated and gassy, distended, uncomfortable. And of course, back then I wasn't carnivore, so I was just going, giving them the advice based on what I was trained to say. So my question is, why do they think that is the key?
That's the question, right?
Right, because there are so many other factors that impact your health. Why focus in on a fiber that helps with transit of waste products through your system? Okay, maybe they say, well, it gets rid of your waste better, but does it?
the individuals that are likely to consume more fiber and more salads, I would think are also more likely to exercise more and get more sunshine and less likely to eat seed oils and processed food and Twinkies and things like that. So
alcohol and smoking.
People that say stuff like this, eat more plants, eat more fiber, it comes from a good place, a well-intentioned place, but I actually believe it's causing more harm for people because it's like, what are you offering? You're literally saying the same thing that we've been told for decades now since the food pyramid in the 1970s, 1980s. Eat more plants, eat more fiber. Clearly it's not working. And I feel like people like Layne are just like, well, that's because people aren't listening to me. And it's like, no, I think people are listening. They tried that. They're not satiated. So then they're constantly hungry. They eat more, eat more, eat more. And before you know it, they're eating more junk food and they're eating more things to fill them up. And it can perpetuate sickness and addiction and all sorts of other things that I think are unintended.
Well, and I worked with sick people. And again, thousands of gastroenterology patients who had some very serious illnesses. And I can't tell you how many of them were eating really healthy diets. They were being very careful with what they ate. They were following the guidelines. They weren't eating garbage. They were doing because they wanted to feel better. They were doing their absolute best to follow the guidelines for a healthy diet. But in many cases, they were feeling worse. They were still having flares of their conditions, despite being on some pretty powerful medications.
Well, I really appreciate this, Layne. Thank you so much. So, Layne, where can people find you and follow you and learn more about what you're doing?
Well, my YouTube channel is Midlife Carnivore, so you can absolutely find me there. But I am also to be found very often with Healing Humanity. So both places.
I would do carnivore diet, but I don't want to be constipated the rest of my life. Humans need fiber.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest myths out there. And many doctors earnestly believe this in their heart of hearts, that you will, I guess, constipate to the point of death and explode if you don't have fiber in your diet. First of all, there's no physiological pathway for doctors who understand physiology. What's the pathway? Where's the physiology? There is none, right? That's not how the human digestive system even works to start with. Secondly, as I said earlier, there are hundreds of thousands of carnivores all over the world, and no one has exploded in a atomic shit blast because they were so constipated they blew up. It's not happening. Carnivores actually have fewer bathroom problems. They have fewer colon problems than people who are eating a high carb, high sugar, high fiber diet.
Well, nutrition science, I'll give it that one. It's a misnomer. It's a complete have. There is no nutrition science. Science, experimental science, is the way that, well, it's one of the ways that human beings can inform on knowledge. What causes what? The way to determine cause and effect is via an experimental protocol. That's not my rules. That's what the scientific fraternity, for want of a better term, have come up with over the last 2,500 years or so. And the disciplines have changed very little in terms of what is required. So if I want to determine cause and effect, I need two subpopulations of, if we're dealing with human beings, which is what we are dealing with here, we need two subpopulations of human beings who at the outset of our study, those two subsets of people have to be identical. Because if they're not, we have uncoupled cause and effect. No matter what we observe, no matter the strength of the observation that we make, if we started with two populations that are not absolutely, utterly identical, you can forget making a claim about cause and effect.
So you may still be asking, what the heck does fiber have to do with wiper fluid? Well, I love analogies. Now imagine we set out to do a study on the longevity of thousands of different vehicles. We could test so many different metrics, and one of the metrics we could test is how often does the owner of the car top off their wiper fluid reservoir? We could put a little tracker on that and we could check it. And you would inevitably find that those that topped off their wiper fluid regularly, their car survived longer. Now, does that mean everyone should go out and buy wiper fluid and they should pause in the middle of a road trip and top off their wiper fluid and they should just be pouring wiper fluid all over, everywhere, all the time? No. That simply means that someone that is more likely to take care of their vehicle, they're probably going to drive it nicer, not as hard, they're probably going to get the oil changed regularly. That vehicle will last longer. That has nothing to do with topping off the wiper fluid. The reason this message of fiber is so dangerous is because it leads people down the wrong path. People are not idiots. People know that vegetables are better than Twinkies and pizza. The problem is when we lift vegetables and plants and fiber up so high and people try to consume it so much because they're scared they're going to die if they don't otherwise, they are not satiated.
Today's word is satiate.
And then they're hungry again, and they eat again, and they eat again, and they eat again, and they're not giving their body the proper nutrients it needs to feel satiated, and they end up eating something they shouldn't, and they end up perpetuating their addiction. And with 70% of us overweight, addiction is a huge part of this problem. So leading people down the wrong path of fiber is not just misleading, it is also dangerous.
How could we be so wrong with all of the nutrition studies and science that we hear on the news over and over again that you need to have fiber or you're going to die younger is basically what we're hearing?
Yeah, well, it starts with the headlines not being reflective of the dietary patterns that we enjoy in the low-carb, keto, and carnivore community. And with that dietary pattern, we really just don't need fiber. And so a lot of times the studies that they're looking at are people on a conventional standard American diet. And in that setting, you could argue that they may benefit from fiber because the dietary pattern they're eating is totally not the best diet for your gastrointestinal tract. So, the first thing many people have already heard, but I have to say it again, is that fiber is not an essential nutrient, meaning that your body can thrive just like a lion or tiger without any fiber. We do need essential amino acids, and we think about protein, and we think about essential fatty acids, which is fat, which is why when you eat a ribeye or ground beef, you get all the things you need to live. The only thing that plants do is give you some residue that you have to get rid of. So people who eat plants with a lot of fiber will have more stool to get rid of, but that is not the goal. The goal is to have a comfortable, effortless elimination. And if you have a comfortable, effortless elimination, which you can certainly do on an animal diet, there's no need to have all that extra fiber. And there are a lot of things that make people nervous because they've been taught year after year about the same concepts. They'll say, well, if you have less frequent bowel movements, that means you're constipated, but that's absolutely not true. Constipation is when you have a hard bowel movement that's maybe painful, maybe you're straining, or you're just feeling like you've had an incomplete bowel movement. That's what really defines constipation. So we have to be careful about our definitions. And if I'm on a meat-heavy diet, if I'm a carnivore or on a keto diet that's heavy on animal protein, my stool volume will shrink because I don't have all that indigestible food like fiber in my diet. So I don't have to have a lot of bowel movements. I'm literally absorbing almost everything that I've consumed.
Huge thank you to all of the doctors, experts, and individuals that shared in this video. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, please leave a thumbs up. And in conclusion, I just wanted to say that I have found healing, incredible healing, by focusing on the root cause. And that's what I encourage everybody out there to do. Don't get distracted by this or that or this. Are you addressing the root cause? Are you fixing your metabolic health? Are you eliminating inflammation and reversing insulin resistance? Because those are the things that are hurting so many people out there. The best advice I can give you is return to what is natural. And the cleanest, most natural foods we can eat in this day and age, in this corrupt, broken system where humans have managed to destroy even the simplest thing, water. We've managed to destroy fruits and vegetables that are poisoned with pesticides and glyphosate and forever chemicals and antibiotics and atrazine and all sorts of ingredients humans were never intended to eat. The cleanest thing we can eat is a ruminant animal, a fatty ribeye steak. There's nothing cleaner. I'll leave it at that.
Idiot.